Hello, good afternoon. Thanks for coming in early.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
Hello.
Welcome to EnvisAGE 2021, Envisioning Meaningful Aging Together. This is an online symposium jointly organized by the National Library Board and the Singapore University of Social Sciences. As you know, today we have a very interesting topic this afternoon, the application and use of reminiscence in dementia care, okay? And shortly, I will start the program, but I'll just wait for a few seconds for some of the latecomers who are coming in. Yes, because we have a few people in the waiting room. Please be patient. Okay, before we start, just some simple reminders and house rules so that we have a smoother program this afternoon. Okay, and if you have any problems with your audio, you are advised to use headphones for better audio quality. And also, to ensure that there's no interruption to the speaker's presentation, please do mute your audio when you are not speaking. And also, at the end of the session, if you have any questions, you can raise your hand. I will show you how to do that later on. And please be informed that this whole session is recorded, so you don't need to do any like a screenshot or anything. Yeah, we will record this whole session. And just also a very kind reminder from our speaker, because she has a lot of interesting activities for you to do. If you don't have any pen and writing paper, please just take a few moments to get your writing paper and pen, because there will be some activities that you need to actually do. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And just again, some reminders also to stay muted. Yeah, just a second reminder. Okay, for some of you who are not so familiar with the Zoom function, most of the functions that you actually need for the session will be at the bottom of the screen. Okay, you can see this unmute mute button. Okay, when you're not speaking, please make sure that there's a red line across the icon. And also, we'll be playing a few videos during the session to ensure that we have a smoother playback. Please do help us when the video is being played to actually stop your video. If you happen to be opening your video, yeah, there should be a line across the video when the speaker is sharing a video playback. And there's a chat box here that you can actually type in your And how do you raise a hand at the end when you want to ask a question? Just click on participants, and then you will be able to see a function to raise your hand next to your name. Yeah? Okay, now it brings me great pleasure to introduce our moderator for this session. She's none other than Miss Anne Singh. Anne is a gerontology alumni and an allied health professional. Besides her work, she has strong interest in community and family-centric care and is an active volunteer. So now I'll hand over to Anne to introduce our speakers for today. Anne, please.
Thanks, Tiong Sing. Yeah, gerontology adopts a holistic view of the older person, and it helps in framing understanding of older persons and as persons rather than an age. So with increasing life expectancy in our population, this understanding has become a lot more relevant in our daily interactions. And I believe that for care to be integrated, we need to look at it together to have dialogues such as this symposium and advocate for population-based and family-centric approaches. We now go on to introduce our speakers for today. Patricia is the Senior Oral History Specialist at the National Archives of Singapore. She has conducted oral history interviews and collaborated on several oral history projects that makes up part of our Singapore legacy. Her current research focus involves the use of oral history in reminiscence work to engage older. We also have with us Gary, who is a volunteer with the Alzheimer's Disease Association. Gary developed passion for working with persons with dementia through his family caregiving experience. He got acquainted with the reminiscence programs at ADA and saw the benefits. He has since devoted much of his volunteering efforts towards encouraging and supporting participation in reminiscence programs as a means to promote well-being of persons with dementia. Before we start the segment, I would like to encourage you to put in your questions at the comment box below. We will collate the questions and pass them to our speakers. Now I hand over to Patricia and Gary.
Thank you very much, Anne. And hello, everybody. I wish I can see all your faces, but unfortunately, we cannot. But in any case, hello, and please allow me to take this opportunity to say hello to my son. Hello, John, and hello, Arthur. Welcome to our talk. We are very excited today to be able to share with you the use of reminiscence in dementia care. And we are here. I have specially invited Gary to join me. Gary is a volunteer at the Alzheimer's Disease Association. But let me share screen with you because I would like you to watch a movie before we start this session. So I'm going to share screen now. Just give me a minute. All right. Let's watch this little filmlet together. This is a very short film by the Dementia UK. And I'm not too sure what you have observed just now when you were watching this little film. Some of the triggers, if you if you do know what exactly you saw, maybe you can type it in chat box. But basically, there's one question that I would like to ask all of us. Which role do you belong to at this point in time? Do you see yourself as the admiral nurse? Do you see yourself as a carer? Or do you see yourself as the person who is being cared for? Gary, which role do you belong to at this point in time? You're muted, Gary.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, the carer.
All right. Yeah, I can see that most of you have key in carer. And I like the way Terry puts it, potentially a person being cared for. And I think I feel the same way too. At this point in time, I would see myself as the nurse. And that's because I'm actually attending to my brother who is a nursing home. At the same time, when I look at the carer, I realize that it need not necessarily be just a nurse. You could be someone who is influential in terms of policy decision making that would impact on the lives of the two persons that you see on the right, this couple. Or you could be a caregiver, like what I see in most of your most people here. Or you could, like what Terry said, potentially be the person who will be cared for. All right. But it doesn't matter, ladies and gentlemen, regardless the role that you play, do you know we have something in common? And this something in common is that we are VIPs. And what do I mean by that? I think in working with persons or in having someone who, our loved ones with dementia or even our clients and patients, I think the first V is that we value every one of us as important, including our domestic helpers who are caring for our loved ones, including the health assistants in our nursing home or our centers, or even in the hospitals, including even those who are involved in agencies, right? And not only do we value every person, I think we are all individuals and we are all made differently, different strengths, different gifts. So individuals with different sets of emotions. And for P, it stands for perspectives. Perspectives. We want to learn to see things from one another's perspective, from the doctor's perspective, from the nurse's perspectives, and also from the persons with dementia perspectives. We want to enter into their world and to understand how they see the world, that the way they see it. And lastly, why is it S? You and I are here today because we recognize that the social environment plays a very, very important part in coming together to create a conducive society for all of us. So if you ask me what is reminiscence in dementia care, I would like to propose to you, it is all about bridging. And I think the nurse there, and you can, if you see yourself as a professional, you are there to bridge and to, for some of us who are involved in caring for persons with dementia, is there to help deepen the relationship. And this is where we want to frame ourselves as we look at reminiscence in dementia care today. It is a very fun activity and it's a very fun way of engaging persons with dementia. So no need to be clumsy one, all right? So very quickly, please allow me to introduce my guest today. He's none better than Gary Teo, a very active retiree and also a community volunteer at ADA. Come, Gary, introduce yourself to our friends.
Thank you, Patricia, for your compliment. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon to everyone present in this talk show. I'm Gary Teo Ing Tik. In Chinese, name is Zhang Rong De. I am a 77 years plus retiree and come from a large family of 11 siblings, 4 elder brothers, then myself, 6 sisters, for my senior to my junior. I received a 1-year kindergarten, 7 years primary, 4 years secondary, and a diploma each from Singapore and Young Polytechnic. My working status is as follows. I started off as a technical trainee, moving up to be a technical assistant, and years later, become a safety training officer in the company. In order to learn more in the field of safety, I left and moved over to other industries like ball bearing manufacturing, universal joint, and other metalworking industries. And later stage, also move over to refinery work and end up in the construction before my retirement at year 2004, age 60. And that's where I am now, land surveyor, counting lampposts.
Thank you very much, Gary. And Gary is actually now a volunteer at the Alzheimer's Disease Association. He goes down once a week to befriend and to work with different pockets of people at the ADA. A brief introduction about myself. I'm Patricia, and I'm with the Oral History Center, the National Archives of Singapore. So I want to thank Professor Carol Ma for inviting me to be on this show. And what is most delightful is also to know that my company, NLB, is part of this meaningful initiative program. So quickly, well, voluntary work and especially working with the seniors is something that is not new to my husband Arthur and to my son John. I mean, even before John was born, we were very involved in voluntary work. And that was because all this while I've been working part-time as an oral history interviewer. And that frees me time in terms of making time to volunteer. So as late as the 90s, we were actually medical escorts. We were befriender. We were involved in Meals on Wheels program. And this is where we started. And concurrently, I was also conducting oral history interviews, and some of the projects includes like prisoners of war, the men on the street, the fishermen at the fishing villages, and also maybe senior servants, public servants. And then one day I told my husband, I said, hey, you know something? Every interview when I come home, I feel good. And not only do I feel good, I think my interviewee also feels good. It's something so therapeutic. On one hand, the objective is really to collect Singapore history. But incidentally, along the way, it's a form of therapy. You just feel good about it. And my husband kept it in the heart, but it was only then until in 2007 when Dad was diagnosed with dementia. And it was a real challenging moment having to look after him. And then when that passed on, we thought that both of us wanted to do something that is meaningful with the elderly, and obviously because we journeyed with Dad through his the last stage of his life, we wanted to be involved in dementia work. So we did some research, and then off I go. I packed my bag. I went to the UK. Took leave from work. Always had the wonderful support from NLB bosses, and especially my past bosses, my interim bosses, and my present bosses. It's a delight to have them because they were so supportive of the work that I was doing outside of my oral history interviews. And so UK we went and we were trained in reminiscence arts facilitation, which is basically, it's all about good reminiscence. How do we gather people together, persons with dementia, their caregivers, even the domestic helpers and people from the care home. And it was a group, it was a celebration. But one of the requirements was when I come back to Singapore, I have to do 1 year of practicum. Then I say, wow, diamond, who do I go to ask for help that will allow me to go in and do my practicum? And there comes the Alzheimer's Disease Association. So I want to thank Teresa and thank Eunice who allowed me to experiment with the kind of program that we brought in from the UK, but we adapted it to suit our Singapore context. So you will see many of some of these activities in this workshop, and that's how I met Gary. So let me show you some of the things we did together, because Gary was a volunteer and he volunteered in these practicum sessions that I was running. So take a look at this. Guess where we were, and okay, don't guess where we were. I tell you, we were at Ngee Polytechnic. But guess what are we doing? So you can see Gary over there clenching his fist to the left, and then you can see me as Madam Lee, the Li Lao Shi, okay? So what were we doing? Saying the pledge. Absolutely correct. Saying the pledge in Mandarin, 我们是新加坡公民. So I did a role play. I came in my that pink cheongsam, and I acted as a very fierce Chinese teacher. And we had a rolling good time. And the reason really why we were involved in this project was I wanted to experiment with intergenerational reminiscence work. So it's still work in progress, huh? And the next thing that I have managed to work with Gary when I was in ADA is this program where, as part of this 12 program, we have one called the Re-Enactment of the Wedding. And you will see Gary over there and me right in the center, and the spouses, 6 couples, right? 6 couples. And if you look at all the rest, they are staff of ADA, and they are also volunteers. We had lots of volunteers who came, who gave them time free of charge just to be part of this program. And the point that I want to share in this picture, remember I mentioned that everyone, we are all VIPs, and that includes the domestic helpers. So if you see the role of domestic helpers in front, they are part of our program. We never allow them to sit behind. They come and they form a circle with us, and they reminisce with us their lives in the Philippines, their lives in Indonesia, and we learn from one another. So reminiscence is about everybody. Everybody is a VIP. So these were the 2 programs that we worked together, right, Gary? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
we did.
Yeah, and this is really Reminiscence in Dementia Care. Very colorful, very busy. We engage them in every facet, from photographs to cooking to hairstyling, everything you name it. We have it for them. And Gary, maybe I get you to just read and share with us what exactly is dementia in the simplest form.
Okay, as what is being reflected in the screen, dementia in a decline in thinking skills, also known as cognitive abilities. It may range from mild, moderate to severe, enough to impair daily life and independent function. They also affect behavior, feelings, and relationships.
Thank you, Gary. Absolutely. And just to share some statistics with you from Population Singapore, you would see from this graph that in about 9 years' time, we will have about 900,000 seniors who are 65 years and above. Now, initially, we projected that out of this 900,000, 10%, which is 90%, 900,000, 90,000 would be with dementia. But now I am told by my friend in ADA, Eunice, that there's a shift in the projection. Look at this new statistics. We are saying that in about 9 years' time, we can expect 152,000 people living with dementia. And as of now, 1 in 10 people over 60 have dementia, and they're getting younger. And then this morning, I learned from the talk that we have 1,500 people who are 100 years old and above. So what yeah, Gary, I was at the talk this morning, and I found out about that. So what does it tell us about it? Well, it seems that it may sound very depressing, but actually, if you look at it, I see opportunities. I see opportunities for the 900,000 people who are 65 years old above, which maybe we will call them the young old. Can we see ourselves playing a role in helping our persons with dementia, do you know why we are good people to reach out to them? Because we have common shared experience, given the narrowing of our gap. So a lot of things that they share, that they talk about, it will be something that we can empathize, and you will see this as we continue with our sharing. So Alice has memory issues. All right. So the question now is, how can you and I put a smile on the face of Alice? And it's not just once, not just twice, because running reminiscence is not just about programming. Programming comes and go, right? After 2 hours, and that's it. But I think the whole issue is about sustainability. How do we keep our loved ones smiling, whether they be at the center, at the nursing home, or when we bring them home? I think that is the challenge for you and I. And that is why we always say that it is so relationship driven, right? Okay, so exactly what is the value of reminiscence in dementia care? But in order for us to answer this question, okay, never mind. Let me then share this. So reminiscence is evidence-based in promoting the well-being of persons with dementia, or in any case for any one of us. If you look at this slide here, and this is a research that's been done in Japan, it tells us that if you get someone to talk about the past, or if we get to talk about the past, it actually increases our blood flow 80 times more than if we were to talk about the present, like where is pain, how are you, and that kind of thing. So I thought this is really quite interesting, because if we can get the blood to start flowing, perhaps we can help to maintain and prevent the decline of dementia, and it's supposed to be therapeutic enough also to address the issue of depression. So in this case, I think talking about the past, which is exactly what we do in reminiscence, is evidence-based in the case of Japan. And I think research is ongoing to dig up more about the value of reminiscence. So this is an activity that I would like you to do now. Can you please take out a piece of paper and a pen? And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to invite you to just look at the artifacts on the table and choose just one artifact that resonates with you. Something that triggers you and make you think of your past experiences, or something that makes you think of a person or an event. Just put it down on a piece of paper. You want to type it on the chat group, it's also fine. Just one item. Paper ball, mirror, boxers short worn by dad, yeah. 5 stone, takia, face powder, powder used by grandma. Oh, sisig. 4 cut stone is sisig, huh? Oh, got parrot soap. Yeah, parrot soap too. Men's woven handkerchief, mug, bowl for rice. Wow. Hey, how come got shuttlecock? Oh, I think you're referring to the chatet, is it? Most likely.
Yeah, it is not shuttlecock.
Yeah, rice cake, 5 stone. Hey, gassing, yeah, gassing, that's right.
Yes,
We can go on and on. You know something, Gary?
yes.
It's because we are doing this online, but can you imagine if we are doing face-to-face with our audience, we can get everybody to elaborate, right? And then it will be so fun, right? Because, and I see
Correct.
that there's a lot of jade banker, and I see that there's a lot of shared experience. So unfortunately, I can't get everybody to participate. So Gary, you are going to be the man I'm going to pick. Gary, share with us something that resonates with you.
Okay, I picked that pair of Crocs because during my younger days, I always like to put it on because the kitchen area is normally sometimes wet, and that clock actually is used by my mom. She is from China and has bonded feet. So very difficult to get that size. And because I'm young at that time, it fits my leg or my foot easily. And I always go after that and get scolded because I'm taking her chance to use it during her work in the kitchen.
From a takia, and you can talk about your mother whose feet is being is a bind fit lady, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So you see, this is so fantastic. It shows you how objects can be used to trigger memories, and it's really fun. Imagine in the afternoon we just sit down over a cup of coffee, and there's so many things to talk about. And this is Gary playing chatted with the persons living with dementia at ADA. So exactly what is reminiscence? Actually, reminiscence therapy started and was formulated by butlers as early as 63, and they use the life review approach, which I believe many of you, if you are out there as therapists, are familiar with the use of life histories to promote the well-being of individual. Um, the element of reminiscence is that it involves the discussion and sometimes even the reenactment of past activities to recollect events experiences. So just now when we shared with you how we reenacted a wedding scene and even a school classroom, these are examples of just last time. We always say last time I remember this, last time I remember that. So this is really about reminiscence, all right? Reminiscence, thinking about the past. And there are so many triggers, but the whole idea is that we want to trigger all this sensory in us: sight, smell. And so just now when I was reading your chat, somebody even mentioned about parrot cake of soap, because parrot cake of soap has a special smell. And Larry, have
What happened?
you are you hearing me, host?
Yeah, come back. The sound comes back.
You mean
And you were
you mean all this while you all couldn't hear me?
No. Only just now momentarily. Now your voice is back.
Okay, shock me, man. I thought all the while you didn't hear me. Did you hear me all the while? Gary,
Yes.
you could hear me, yeah?
Yes, correct. Until just now, that momentary so-called silence.
Okay. That's strange. Okay, so many things we can do: objects, smells, taste, music, dance, and reminiscence is really, really empowering, right? And so we talk about what's the value of reminiscence. Okay, this is what's going to happen. Gary and I, we are going to share the value of reminiscence. Because I know that along the way, some of you will say, okay, so this is good, but how do we do it? So we're saying that along the way, as we talk about the value of reminiscence, we are also sharing activities that you can do either as a group or individual when you're at home. And for us, we feel that one of the value of reminiscence is that it promotes meaningful conversation and communication. And I'm going to show you what we mean as Gary and myself take part in the next activity, and we want you to join us in taking part of these activities. So in preparing for this session, I met up with Gary and said, Gary, can you bring documents and photographs that best resonate with you? And Gary came and brought this too. So we say, ask Gary, okay? And so Gary came up with this too. And then the interesting thing is, what we would like you to do now is we would like you to, okay, this instruction is very simple. We given 1 minute, list as many questions as possible that you want to ask Gary based on these two pictures. 1 minute, and then you list down the number of questions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We just want to find out how many questions can we craft in asking Gary. And your time starts now.
The younger generation don't have this. Postal district only one number, 9. It's not on me. I'm not listening.
Some people even key in the questions.
My goodness. Good. You
I like that. Real
and
quick.
Tancho.
So nice. Oh, I also got so excited by your questions that I forgot about my timekeeping. Okay, 5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. I stand amazed at the number of questions that come.
Wow.
It's as good as interviewing Gary, for his talk show. No, Gary, the next round you can have your own talk show and ask these questions.
My goodness.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is so fantastic because we are just talking about one IC. We are not even talking about many objects. And can you imagine the number of questions that you have crafted and formulated? And don't you think this is exactly something that we can do with persons with dementia? Because if we work on if we work on this belief that they still have long-term memory, what's stopping us during COVID-19 and when we need to chit-chat with our loved ones, just take out the OIC, and you can have a wonderful conversation with your loved one over a cup of coffee in that case. But I just want to share with you, so all of you have questions, are very good. The question is, how many of you crafted more than 10 questions within that 1 minute? You put up your hands. Or 20 questions, or 30 questions, or 40 questions. It is endless, okay? But I just want to share in the course of conversation with Gary, and as I was studying his identity card, I had some questions for him, and I wanted him to answer us. And let's see if the questions that I have are similar questions. I think I saw some similar questions. So this was what I saw, and I asked Gary this. So Gary, can you answer our questions? My question: what does your name Teo Eng Tek mean?
Okay. I'm not very well versed in Chinese because I only study up till primary. So I can only recognize or remember my last name, which is the. In other words, Tao De. That means I have integrity. This name actually is given to me by my parents. The second word, wrong, I don't know how the meaning. So that's why I'm unable to so-called explain. And then on the right-hand side, you see 3 other characters. These are in Korean. I got a Korean guide when I joined a tour to South Korea to say, in my Chinese name, how would you write it out in your language? And that's how I got it. And I in fact kept it and lost it until I finally, this point in time, I went to research again and found this. That's why you see that piece of paper with a torn edge.
Okay, wrong. Somebody got wrong for you. The meaning of wrong. Gary, read from May and some of them in here.
Oh,
wrong
I see.
means glory and honor.
Wow. Oh, I didn't know
That's the
about
meaning
that.
of your name. You didn't know about it, right? That's the meaning of your name,
I'm not
Gary.
aware.
Okay.
No, because sometimes if I don't pronounce it wrong, some will pronounce as Yong, and Yong is a different Chinese character. Different. Yes, and in English, is actually ENG, Eng. But in Chinese, if you pronounce wrongly, then it will not be wrong, it will be Yong. And it's a different character. That's how I get to know.
This is so fantastic.
Yeah,
But Gary, so you remember it's glory and honor, okay?
Wow,
Wrong
wow.
means. Now, then I also noticed, Gary, the name
Yes.
Gary is not in your IC. Why?
Well, that time, I choose this one is when, after so many years, and then how I get this is through one of my worker from Sri Lanka. He used one of those numerological type of book from India, and using my birthday, my children's birthday, he managed to figure out this name, the letters Gary. So I stick to it until today. Not because I am a Christian or whatever that is. That's why you don't see this added in my IC or even my passport.
Okay,
So when I apply, I have to be very careful, because if they add in this one, it may not go through immigration.
thank you so much. Okay, now this chat group, all the information that is coming in is so valuable. So the back end colleagues of mine, can we make sure that we save this chat group, because we need to pass this to Gary. There's so much information that Gary can glean from his name. Going take. All right, let's move on. So I also saw in one of your chat that one of you noticed exactly what I noticed, and I just say, Gary, the postal code is 1 digit. Tell us
Correct.
more. Tell us more, Gary. Singapore
Yes,
9.
correct. At that time, because we haven't really developed and expand that much. So in fact, District 9 is not too bad. 10 will be those around Holland Road area, where all the rich and all the government so-called Westerners stay. So 9 is somewhere, I think, quite near to town, a short distance from so-called Chinatown itself. Right?
Thank you very much. And some of the questions that came in, actually, some of you are very intuitive. You even asked him if that was his first IC, and actually the answer is no. But I got no time to get him to elaborate, because that
No,
is
this one is
another very long.
second.
Every no time already.
Okay,
Because
sorry.
very long. No, don't be sorry.
Okay, sorry.
It's just that whenever we reminisce, Gary, it's non-stop, right? We can move on to so many topics. But let's just focus on District 9. When I talk about District 9, then you know what Gary did? He fished out some photographs, and I'm going to get Gary to elaborate on 4 Muhammad Sultan Road, District 9. Okay, go ahead, Gary. Tell us about this.
This one is a company card. This company is a provision shop set up by my dad before I was born. And in fact, the address you see is still there, 4 Muhammad Sultan Road, but the district is just what Patricia highlighted, only 1 digit only. And then you observe the telephone number. This is the shop house telephone number. You see how many digits only. I didn't realize until she pointed out to me.
I know some of you can buy 4D already. 22742, weekend coming.
And then at that time, because provision shop, we have to have a license to sell liquor, and all the other items. And also, in fact, later on, you see another so-called item. That one is a so-called purchasing card or ration card. Because during the Japanese occupation, I was born between, because the Japanese took over 43 to 45. So I was born in 44. So this type of ration card is meant for customer to purchase those control items like sugar, rice, and salt. And at that time, the so-called purchasing card, the state of Singapore is not Singapore, it's Soyonanto. That's the Japanese name. Now, what you see in this photo, on the left is the actual shop house that I was born. And the name of the shop is, as it is, Kimby. And then to the right is actually, because the house belongs to CK Tang, we rent from them for our livelihood until later stage we hand over or give back to them, right? And so what you see on the second, in the middle photograph with the circle, this was taken by my niece when she passed by. And this is what the house looks right now. The owner, CK Tang, has took over and so-called redeveloped. And to the right of it, or to the left, is the actual CK Tang building before they moved to Orchard Road under this Tang Plaza and Dynasty Hotel.
Right. All right. Wow. Non-stop. We haven't even talked about the ration card yet. You know, ladies and gentlemen, when Gary showed me the ration card during the Japanese occupation, good grief, I saw the name Hwang Soo-jin and I said, Gary, this is my oral history interviewee. He was formerly the Speaker of Parliament, And Gary said, who is it? I said, I must show it to him. And then that strikes another topic for conversation. Fantastic, right? How objects, documents can be used as a way of just engaging. Actually, I tell you, it is not just persons with dementia. You get Gary there. Gary is as excited as the persons with dementia because there's so many things for Gary to reminisce about. But we also want to say that reminiscing the past, I mean, besides meaningful conversation which we just had, we want to share with you that when we were doing it at the ADA, it was such an enjoyable activity. And I want you to take a look at this. One of the things we did was we get, you know, what we did is that for reminiscence to be successful, you have to do a lot of background research. That means you have to work actually with the caregiver to find out more from about the persons with dementia, and then we record their stories like, hey, tell me when your pa got married, how did your pa meet your mom, how did, you know, we collected all this information and we say, where was the wedding being held? And then after that, we along the way we also chatted with the persons with dementia, and on the day itself we just say, okay, on the day can you bring anything that is related to a wedding item? So it doesn't matter whether you're married or not, but it could be a wedding card that you've attended, a wedding song, whatever it is. And then people start bringing their items. So but they did not know that we were holding a special wedding enactment for them to allow them to renew their vow. Okay, so if you look at the picture to the right, Mr. and Mrs. Mark, they were absolutely that's why you see you see Mr. Mark, he's so uncoordinated. Like, look at his tie and his shirt and his coat, totally off because they were not prepared. Okay, so we want to share with you a video. Look at Gary. What was Gary? Gary, what were you doing?
Raising a toast to all the couples.
Yeah. So we reenacted a wedding dinner at
Yam
Sing Leong.
Seng.
Was it Sing Leong restaurant, Gary?
Yes, it is. And that's
Yeah.
where also I held my wedding dinner.
Yeah. How many of you remember Sing Leong restaurant, Macpherson Road? Right,
No,
Macpherson.
no, it's Upper Serangoon Road.
Serangoon Road. Okay.
Yes.
And we just want to share with you a very short clip. So in order to get better quality of your video, if you turn off your own video, you can watch it better. Okay, we're going to share this with you. It's the mass wedding of 6 person, or 6 couples rather. Okay, take a look. What they were doing is that they have a march in, and then now they are going to stand in a row where they are going to uh, commit themselves to one another with a marriage vow. All right, and so you see them in a straight row, and they were going to recite the marriage vow which they said to one another many years ago. Gary, what was the feeling like for you at that point in time when we were running this program?
It really touched me, make me go back to that day that I married my wife. But then I say this vow not in the church. That time is under the registrar of marriage at Fort Canning.
Yeah, I think it has a lot of meaning for me too, because to hear the spouses reciting the vow, and words like good times and bad times, and in sickness and in health, and that meant a lot, I think, for the caregivers at that point in time to recommit their 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 love and their pledge for their spouses. I thought that was fantastic. But
Yeah, it is.
I also want to say something that in running such reminiscence program, we need to be extra careful because
Yeah.
there are people who are widowed. There are also people who are divorced. So we have to do a lot of research and to say that is this good to go? If it's no good to go, then we don't go. So sometimes I recall that there was a lady who was divorced, and I have to ask the caregiver and say, is it good for us to go ahead with this? And she said, yeah, go ahead and do it. And so remember, person centric, the interest of the person living with dementia. So know when is the time to pull what kind of reminiscence activities. All right. So this is so we had our eight course lunch, I think, and these are actually fantastic. They're prepared by volunteers, and I am so amazed at the way people just come forward and volunteer in this program. And we were happily eating. And then got yam sing, some more got bok some more, orange juice, and that kind of thing. Yeah, right. So very happy occasion, reminiscence. All right. Um, so what you have been seeing so far is a group reminiscence session. There are times where we do carry out one-to-one reminiscence. One-to-one reminiscence can be part of a group reminiscence, or sometimes it could be a stand-alone kind of reminiscence when you do it with dad and mom. And I think over the months, some of our caregivers have learned just to pick up a phone and with the phone just record and interview the mother and the father of their past experiences. And you realize that as they chit chat with one another, it triggers some of the half forgotten memories and it creates a sense of shared experience. And I want you to see in the next slide. Okay, this is a picture of Mr. and Mrs. La. I was just having a conversation with their son last night over WhatsApp, and Mr. Lau is interesting. I wanted to collect his story because his father started an English school in the heart of town, Cecil Street, in the early years, and Mr. Lau himself was a student there. But the interesting thing is that Mr. Lau has a very interesting family background because he had brothers and the parents died at a very early age. And so Mrs. Lau's parents adopted the boys into their families. And Mrs. Lau has many sisters. So at the end of the day, all the boys who were adopted into the family married the girls, that means married their adopted sisters. And I thought this was a very interesting story, and I wanted Mr. Lau to share with me. But Mr. Lau has a little bit of memory loss. So we took a photograph, and then I told Mrs. Lau, I said, come, Mrs. Lau, what he may not remember, but I think you can help him to recognize. So I want you to take note of two words that I mentioned. Cannot remember, cannot recollect, but can recognize. And this is what reminiscence, how powerful reminiscence is. So with persons with dementia, of course, I always tell our caregivers, don't say remember, it's a bad word, but it is about helping them to recognize. And let's see how this conversation takes place between Mr. Lau and Mrs. Lau. In the afternoon, we went there and we ate Haagen-Dazs ice cream because that's his favorite. And we had a conversation just to talk about his younger days. So when you listen to Mr. Lau, you must scan, okay? So Mr. Lau is the one that I've actually circled, and to the extreme right is Mrs. Lau. So the flow of the story should be from my screen is from left to right. Okay, listen to this and how Mrs. Lau helps him.
Myself, and this one is who is this?
Gopal.
Gopal, yeah. Yeah, he passed away. He's my brother, he passed away. And this is my father-in-law. And who is this little girl?
Sarda.
Huh?
Sarda.
Sarda, yeah. She's still living. And that is, who is it? Surendran, my youngest brother. He is also passed away. So two of my brothers have passed away.
The third and the fourth.
Sorry?
The third and the fourth have passed away.
The third and the fourth, yeah, correct. The second brother is this one, and myself. And that's my eldest, my wife's eldest sister. You're here, what?
Yeah, that's me lah.
That's how you say you're not here.
So endearing.
That's my wife.
Yeah, so endearing, right? He actually said, you are, you know, it's very interesting. He will say, who is this, right? Then the wife will tell him who these people are, right? And then he will then elaborate what happened to these people, right? But when he saw that picture of the wife, he said, you are here, what? How come you say you're not here? And you see that sweet moment together. I thought that was very endearing. It's like a shared experience that both of them were going through, and it was a lovely afternoon spent. All right. So it's really about half forgotten memories, but coming together to share a common experience as you help your persons with dementia jog their memory and recognize.
Myself?
This is another part that I feel in the course of my working with persons with dementia is that it's come to a stage where most of them are frail and some of them are weak. And the common thing that when I get to work with them, the caregivers or the domestic helper will say things like, oh, so and so cannot go to the kitchen because very dangerous, or so and so cannot do this, so and so cannot do that. But you will stand amazed what they can do if given the right opportunity to create that time when they remember they were fit and independent. Have a look at this. Have a look at this video, huh? Alice was in her 90s. See what she was doing with us, the volunteers.
Bad ball.
Because she can catch, you know.
Okay, wait, I'm the runner. Ah, okay.
Okay, you're the okay, so Iris is first place, huh?
Throw down
Iris
after
first place.
the throw down. Throw down.
Okay.
Greg is second base. Run!
Catch me.
And that is our dear Alice teaching us how to play rounders when she's 90 years old. We had really a very, very good time. And look at the next one, the next picture. This is Iris. Iris was our national hockey player, and when we did these activities with her, she was in her 80s, and we wanted Iris to teach us how to roll the ball with a hockey stick. We couldn't find an original hockey stick, so we gave him a floorball stick, and she was able actually to share with us how to dribble a ball, how to score goal, and actually even how to defend with the stick. And then we got Iris to bring all her medals, and she was happy. But if you are wondering why am I in the habit, that was because I reenacted the role of a teacher nun, because Iris was studying in CHIJ, and so was Alice. So we wanted them to recollect what was it really like in those days when they were taught by the nuns. And we really, really had a really good time. Yeah, absolutely, fire in her eyes, right? She's really serious about playing the game. Fantastic. She's a dancer. Up to today, I'm told that she still loves dancing. All right. Okay. This is something that is very close to my heart. I think reminiscing the past also allows a person to take stock of their lives, especially when they're moving towards the end stage of their life, and they're trying to make sense of their experience as a whole. And so this is a personal story that I want to tell. I know some of you may have heard of this story, but it is worth sharing with a big group today. I want to tell you the story of my mother. So when mother was 68 years old, the Oral History Center interviewed her for this project called the Chinese Dialect Groups, because mom was raised in a typical Teochew family, and she was staying at Nam Sing Hue Heng. Nam Sing Hue Heng in those days was Bandimir. And we wanted to document the history of Nam Sing Hue Heng and what it was like in those days. So I interviewed her. Still remember Old Police Station, Hill Street 140. Okay, currently the MCI building. And so I collected mom's story for oral history to collect the history of Singapore. But little did I know that towards the end stage of her life, um, I could play back her story for her to listen. So if you look at 2014, you see that you can see two belts on the table. These were her wedding belts that was given to her by her grandma. And inside the belt, there are coins, and rice to tell her, to wish her fertility after she gets married. But look at the picture on the right, towards the right. She was at the end stage of her life, and we played her oral history next to her for her to listen. And I stand amazed that even though with her eyes closed, because she was really not doing well, she could actually follow the oral history interview and recite some of the nursery rhymes. That was so amazing. Let me see if I can play this for you. Just a short clip.
Ai sẽ tia tiệt sọt để xíu đi vào này ha siêu sa pa quay xịn lo.
So it's a nursery rhyme that say oi bit like chi koi, and she remembers that. And that her own story kept her company. But why do I say that reminiscence is good? Because as she listens to her story, but we get her to join her dots, because she has this sense of like she's not very clever because she doesn't receive formal education. So she always say, "Aya, abi japa tang si boring." I'm sure some of your loved ones will tell you that, right? Very useless, that kind of thingy. And then, but as she tells her story, I say, "Mommy, why do you keep telling me that you are so stupid? Because actually you're quite clever, no? You became a tontine and you brought in money for that. And then in the 70s, those days we don't have real estate agent, right? Then she's the middle woman, she knows how to buy house, sell house, and then earn coffee table money." And then we help her to join the dots of all the not so pleasant events in her life. And as we string it together, she begins to see that it became from negative events. She stringed it together. We helped her to string it together, and it became a positive experience. And I remember 4 months before she died, she actually smiled and told me, say, "Actually, our books is nang. Actually, I'm a clever girl." And I thought, wow, this is so powerful. That is the power of reminiscence. And this is what we want to do. And this is why I think Gary and myself, we are here today to want to be an advocate for the use of reminiscence in dementia care. But we also recognize that you see, we run this kind of group activities. So sometimes we get them very high up. And I remember one volunteer always asked me, say, "Pat, your program are so fun. You make them so happy. But at the end of 2 hours, they are going back. And then what happens?" And then it makes me reflect. And I realized that we need to return the care of the elderly to their loved ones where and when possible. Sometimes not to the family members, sometimes back to the nursing home or the daycare. Because at the end of the day, they need to be cared for. And that's why we are now in the process of encouraging more people to do reminiscence at home with their loved ones. And this is so important, especially in COVID-19. One of the drawbacks is that because we are so dependent on volunteers to run reminiscence program, right? But once COVID-19 strikes in and there's a lockdown, the volunteers can no longer go to the center. Like Gary, you can no longer go there, right?
True, yes. I really miss the clients and the staff.
Yeah. So the only way is then to train you and I to do reminiscence activities with our loved ones at home. Okay, and there are resources available out there. Yeah. So some of the simple ones could be get mom, dad to tell you the story. You don't need to be fantastic artists. You can actually sketch their stories. And if you look here, these are 7 stories of 7 person. And then we make it so beautiful, right? As they tell the story, we sketch and then we frame it up And in the end, we gave it to them as a present. And this was something that we did in a nursing home, I remember. And then we frame it up, and then they put it next to their bed, and it becomes their story. And when people visit them, they use this as a point of conversation, something that we can also do at home, right? Not very difficult. We also have scrapbooks. So Alice was with us. We collected her stories, and this is Alice's scrapbook. It was something that she did with Sharon, her daughter, and they will sketch. And as they tell stories, we draw, and then we put it in a scrapbook. We keep photographs. Even as we are running the Reminiscence program, we will get photographer to come in. And I had a wonderful friend, Stanley. I don't know whether he's with us in our midst, but he'll be taking photographs. So some of these pictures that you see, the videos you see, were taken by Stanley. And we capture the moments, and we allow them to keep it in their scrapbook. So when you open up, they remember. So my question is this: if a person is not well and is in the hospital, maybe because of COVID-19, and she's isolated, can she carry this book with her and bring it to her in the hospital? And during free time, whenever a health assistant walk by or a nurse walk by, can you open up this book and reminisce together with Alice? That would be fantastic, isn't it? That would be something that we can do, and something for therapists to consider as a useful activity. So with my brother now is staying in a nursing home. I would do something like that with him. And just now we watched Dementia UK, right? They have a template. All right, we can download it from the internet, and I start collecting my brother's story whenever I visit him at a nursing home. And it was so fantastic. It really brought the relationship between the brother and sister a lot closer and more meaningful. And you frame them, and you divert their attention from their incapacity into the past, right? Memory box is something that it's worth considering. Last year, we had Pam Schweitzer, my teacher from the UK, to come down to teach us how to build memory boxes. So even in collecting stories, we can actually work together even during COVID-19 with dad and mom or husband and wife. Sit down together and build your story in a reminiscence box. I think we have 20 minutes left for question. So at the end of the day, I summarize what Gary and myself have just shared. So take a look at it. Okay. Some ideas. All right, we have come to the end of our sharing session, and I will hand this time to my moderator, Anne, and perhaps take some questions from the floor.
Thank you, Patricia. Yes, we have a question about where to find the resources. And Patricia has a slide on some of the resources that can be used. And I will also share this in the chat box. Also, there's a question on how to avoid talking about sad or bad memories with older adults. Or is it okay to talk about such sad past incidents?
Okay, let me take this question. So in terms of resources, I have actually put up a slide where you can go in and pull the resources. The National Archives of Singapore has lots of photographs. So I've given you a website, not only photographs, but also old documents like posters and that kind of thing, and oral history interviews. So that website I have it on my slide, and we can share with them. AIC has got a few good reminiscence activities. The National Museum itself also has a app called House of Memories where there are objects. So take a look at it. The question about whether do we get them to talk about bad memories, it is really dependent on the comfort level. Initially, I was told don't get them to talk about things that bring back sad memories. And we are respectful. So I recall I wanted to do a session on the war years, and confidently I arm myself with all things of the past, food that is related to the war years, from lalang to tapioca to sweet potato. And the minute I took it out and say today, and it was I remember it was a Teochew, it was a Hokkien session, and said we're going to talk about the war years. And at that point in time, I was overconfident because I spoke to the family members and they thought it was okay, but it turned out it was not okay. So you have to be very innovative, no? Immediately we change it into a cooking class, about those days, when we are poor. So we have to be very sensitive. But on the other hand, I find that if we are trained in counseling work, which some of us are, getting to them to talk about the past may not be that bad because it helped them to put closure. And I realized this helps a lot, especially when I was working with prisoners of war. There is this sense of release that they feel good that they actually talk about their sad memories. So I don't have an answer for it. It is really how you manage it and what is the intent. Is that the intent helping the person to put closure? Or if it's a person with dementia, is it really necessary for them to talk about the past? Maybe not, right? So a lot of discretion is needed.
Thank you, Patricia. We have another question. One of the participants' mom had dementia and also hearing loss. How to do reminiscence without conversation? Yeah.
Okay, I'm not too sure if it is complete hearing loss, but the other thing that I want to say, it's not just necessarily hearing loss, because there are some conditions whereby because of certain parts of their body that's being affected and they can't even communicate. And this happens when people are towards the moderate stage where speech is being impaired. But let's ask ourselves, what is communication? Communication is more than verbal, right? It is also non-verbal, right? So when we were running one session, I think Professor Carol Ma and I, when we volunteered at and St. Luke's home just before COVID-19, there was this lady who was completely she was was she hearing impaired? No, she was not hearing impaired. I think she could not speak, but she could listen. And what we did was we took a whiteboard and we wrote out all the questions for her, I remember. So there are many creative ways of getting them to talk. And if the hearing impact is not that she's completely dumb, what we did is, like in the case of my mother, she's really hard of hearing and it's very tiring talking to mom because you literally have to scream in less than 15 minutes. I get very exhausted. So what I did was I gave, and they don't like to wear earpiece. So what we did was I've got her amplifier, and every time whenever I want to talk to her, I just amplify my voice. So there are different ways of reaching to them. It could be through sketching, through drawing. We can find creative means to do that. Yeah. Have I answered your question? If I've not answered your question, then please key into the box and we will take it offline.
We have a few questions that are specific to different characteristics of persons with dementia. For example, how to help somebody who has behavioral issues or temperament issues with dementia. How to help a person who is very quiet and doesn't engage in conversations easily. And we also, maybe this question first.
Either they are quiet or they are.
They are not participating, for that they might throw tantrums. That is one of the questions that we have here.
Behavioral issues. Gary, would you like to help answer this question? Because you have been, I think I recall you share with me an experience when you were volunteering. Can you share with us how do we deal with persons with dementia who may have issues of either they're very quiet or sometimes they can get angry? How do you deal with such persons with dementia?
Well, without identifying the client, yes, with the staff, we have come across clients who are by nature quiet, but it's not because they are quiet. It's just that they have problem to speak up. So one way to engage them is to have something which will generate their interest. For example, that game that you conducted, right? That's so-called chatik, right? So, some of them, because of their physical restriction, but when they really decided to do it, and through encouragement and all that, they can really, do what we will not expect them to do. And that is to say, able to stand up and just raise the leg a bit to when the chatik falls, just as to a means of kicking it. So that is one way which we can engage them to bring themselves out rather than remain in that quiet position. That much I learned from all this hands-on. See. And then, of course, there are some who also, because of the deteriorating in their physique and health, it's difficult to really understand or hear what they try to say out. But then when we hit on something which that person has the interest, for example, playing some songs, some those so-called evergreen songs, it hits on that person, and you find that he start to smile and maybe to whistle along the way also. So these are the things that, which we have to look out for to get them engaged.
To calm them down, right? Music is
Yes.
a very good way of calming them down.
It is.
Yeah. And for people who don't talk much, I think it will require some kind of interviewing skills, asking the kind of questions that will actually take a separate session altogether. How do you
True.
engage
Yeah.
person with dementia who talk too
Correct.
much or who don't talk at all?
Yeah.
But-
Correct.
Yeah, but remember, there are many other non-verbal communication that we can engage quiet people.
Yes.
Sometimes it's just using object, I remember this man, very few, but I need to clarify something, ladies and gentlemen. When they are quiet, it doesn't mean that they are not with us. Most of the time, clients who are quiet are also with us and they are enjoying it. But it's just that they don't have many words. So what we do is that when it comes to their turn, we use objects. So when we do a pastime and we always do research first. So we find out that, okay, he golf, he tennis, and he plays chess. So I will bring all the items and I'll say, so and so, Victor, which do you like best, golf or tennis? And he will pick. And that's good enough. He's responding, right?
Yes.
And
Correct.
at the same time, Gary, I also learned that as we wait upon the person to speak, the rest are also waiting. So we learn certain value of respect and waiting for one another.
Yeah. Cannot
And then,
wait for too
as my
long.
teacher
Yes.
Pam Schweitzer always tell me, you count 10 before you count 10. Okay, you don't ask a question and then straight away try very hard to help them. All right,
Correct.
just count 1 to 10. So I ask you a question, and how much time are we left? Then you don't answer. You just count 10 before you answer me. And how much time have we got left?
Right. Actually, we
And you're too fast already. You must count 10. And then you really experience what is it like talking to persons with dementia. Yeah, anyway, that's an exercise. Yes, go ahead, Anne. Sorry.
Well, actually, we have extended our time, but if everybody's all right, we could finish up some of the questions.
Yeah.
Or would you prefer to answer them offline?
I'm
Go
okay
for it.
I'm okay. Gary, what about you? Are you okay to stay on?
Yes. No issue.
Yeah.
No issue.
Gary, I just need to
Reminisce, right? That's why we need to talk. We are never tired of talking.
We wish you can prolong it.
Gary, you say what? Yeah, go ahead, Anne.
Yeah, Gary, could we have a look at your face, because we can't really see you.
Can't see my face? Gary or my face?
Yeah, right. So we have one question that is like, with the COVID restrictions, how can we start doing reminiscence at home? Because Patricia was encouraging that at some point the care needs to return to the family. So how do we do that at home? And is it possible to do it virtually, for example, using iPads or using technology to facilitate the reminiscence? And yeah, part of it might have been in your resource, but would you like to elaborate a little about this question?
Yes. I think one of the best resources that you can go to is the National Archives of Singapore online. We have thousands and thousands of photographs of the past. We have also oral history interviews for you to listen. So that is a very good resource that you can sit down together to reminisce with your loved ones in terms of places, in terms of events. The AV, audiovisual, we also have old clips of old Singapore. And to make it accessible, the good news is that we have made them available on MeWatch. All right. So go to MeWatch, scroll down to documentaries, and you will see Singapore of yesteryears. And you will hear oral history interviews, and then you have pictures of the past that sort of like relate with those images. So go in MeWatch, okay, and then scroll for this, some of this. MeWatch is one of them. The National Museum also has an app called the House of Memories. So they deal with objects. So this is something that you can download on your iPad and do it together with your loved ones. I went to AIC website, wellness program. They have also compiled a list of activities that you can print out on the spot and do it with them. Okay. And then I mentioned that UK Dementia has also a template whereby you can download a series of questions that you can actually do it together with a loved one. So many activities that you can do. Yeah, Carol has actually typed in the website. Carol, can you also give them the UK Dementia template that we have used when we were volunteering at some of
Okay.
the nursing homes?
Yeah, I'm trying to send out the link to you all.
Yeah. Okay. COVID-19 is, it's so important. Actually, I wanted to say something else. I think it's a good opportune time to say, and I hope I'm sharing this in my own capacity, that because of COVID-19, very hard to rely on volunteers, and I wish that the centers and the nursing homes can, and because you see, you cannot rely on the nurses and the therapists, they're also very busy, right? But if we can actually spend money and actually start hiring some of our young old, we're talking about 65 years and above, and there are 900,000 of them, and they're still fit, like our Gary is 77 years old. But can you imagine if we can actually employ some of these people in the home, whether part-time, full-time, and they run our reminiscence program for us and they get paid? I think this is going to be a very meaningful job to engage this growing silver community in Singapore. I think something for our policyholders to consider. Time's up already. Okay.
Thank you, Patricia and Gary, and thank you for everybody for contributing to the questions and sharing your memories and also your experiences on reminiscence. So I want to summarize, reminiscence can be a powerful tool to connect older persons with or without dementia to reaffirm their identity, reconnect with fond memories, significant events in their lives, and create meanings. So I see gerontology principles of life course perspective, aspects of self-determination being achieved through reminiscence. And like what Pat said, at some point, the care has to return to the family, and her work towards upskilling and empowering people like you and I to do reminiscence in our own homes with our loved ones. I would like to thank Patricia and Gary. It's been a privilege to moderate this session, and I've learned a lot from Patricia and Gary and the questions that the audience has asked. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please save the chat for us, okay? Because if we can, we would like to respond to some of them. I have their names. Yeah. So they're very good feedback. And Gary, can I say something to thank Gary first? Gary, thank you so much for being part of this program. And
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be able to participate.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I look forward to more good opportunities to work with you. But I tell you, I'm going to do something crazy, okay? We are going to end the finale by singing a song together, because I'm told that if there's anything that we will lose in terms of intelligence, music is the last to go. But at the same time, I cannot play music because of copyright. So we are going to use acapella what's the term? Acapella to sing this song. Acapella. That sounds like you, Sharon. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, hi, Sharon. Okay, we're going to sing this song together, okay? So turn on your video, unmute yourself. Never mind if there's lagging, just sing and enjoy this song together. Que sera, sera. By the count of three, I will start. By the count of three, okay? 3, 2, 1.
When I was just a little girl,
I
asked
asked
Mother, what will I be? Will I be pretty? Will I be rich? Thank you.
What a messy chat, but it's so fun, right? See you then. Take care. God bless.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye-bye. Thank you.
I
Thank
come to
you.
I'm from National Library. I have some closing slides to share. Also to thank our speakers and moderator. Yeah, I'll start sharing screen now. We are getting too excited. That's wonderful. Okay, just quickly because we are running short of time. Yes, if you are interested, SUSS actually offers the following program that you are seeing on the screen. Yeah, different courses that you can sign up. The info is actually in the URL that you see on the screen. Okay, I'll let you have some time to take a look.
Oh, and I just remember I did not share the last slide on all the resources.
It's in the chat already.
Okay.
Would you like?
No, it's all right. As long as it's in the chat group. And in any case, we will upload the slides at some point in time.
Yes, yes. And also, if you are, I'm sure all of you are not very interested now, and you can actually find more resources by downloading the NLB app if you have not done so. I'll tell you what you can actually find on this app. It's really wonderful. Okay, let me just change my pointer. Okay, it's very messy, but don't worry. When you have the app, you can actually see that you can actually do a quick search. You can actually search for keywords like dementia, yeah, and so on. And this icon gives you access to newspapers and e-magazines that you can read online. And this is for SPH newspapers. And to find out more programs for NLB, you can actually click programs, and even you can even actually click more to learn new skills. For example, we have this database called LinkedIn. Okay, I will not go in further details so as not to hold you back. Hold on, I just changed my pointer back again. Okay, sorry, I want to share the screen again now. All right. Accidentally closed the slide. Hold on. Give me a second, please. Okay. Let me share that again. Okay. Yes. Yeah, okay. And after you search on the keywords, you can actually find many books related to the topic for today. On the left is actually, can you go back up again? I just want to explain a bit of some of the books that are interesting. Yes, I just want to highlight a few books that are much more interesting. The second one on the Nostalgia Factory actually talks about using reminiscence. Yeah, so it's very interesting for today's topic. And also the book that you see on memory and movies, it actually goes through the various plots in movies that you see. And the author actually writes to inform you whether these scenes that you are seeing on the screen, whether it's actually based on scientific fact. For example, on Golden Pond, that is a more realistic portrayal versus those movies that you watch when the person suddenly loses memory completely overnight. And the author discusses all these very interesting facts. And the last book is actually very touching story of various stories, about 40 stories actually, of persons who are fighting against this illness. Okay? And for more info, you can actually click on the QR code below. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. Yes, also the library has also produced a lot of resource that you can actually refer to. Okay, it's the previous slide here. You can scan the QR code for more resources. And also finally, for the feedback for this session, please scan the QR code. We'd like to hear from you because we wonder, we know that you have really benefited a lot, and we really like to hear from you how the program has helped you and whether we can improve on such programs in the future. Okay, I'll give you a few moments to scan the QR code. I'll just count 1 to 10, just as what Pat has taught us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, next slide, please. Okay. For more info, for our library programs, you can sign up for the mailing list. Okay, you can receive email updates for upcoming events also. Okay. And next slide. Okay, and for some of you are in the next session, so just quickly go to the next session for this interesting topic on entrepreneurship and active aging. Okay, I think that's all my slides. Thank you, and sorry for that slight technical thing just now. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. We have come to the end of the program today. Thank you again for everyone who are attending the program and your enthusiastic participation, and also to our wonderful speakers and moderator. It's really wonderful for me also personally. Thank you very much.